Good afternoon. In my junior year as an undergraduate student, my boyfriend of 3.5 years died by suicide. Before I went home to the funeral, I approached my professors to let them know why I wouldn't be in class. One of my business professors said to me, "The business world does not stop for death," while my poetry professor demanded I show her an obituary. A year later, during my senior year in college, my father died after battling cancer. After missing 2 weeks of classes, I returned to campus to complete my degree. Upon my return, another of my professors welcomed me back with a handwritten sympathy note, a homemade supper, and a comfort basket. These moments shaped me as a teacher. I learned what kind of teacher I wanted to become and what kind of teacher I did not want to become. After the experiences I had with the business and poetry professors, I went from giving their coursework my all to doing only enough to get by. Their callous disregard for real-life moments, for a real human connection, resulted in a lack of academic engagement. If we as teachers are cold and distant toward our students, the barrier can keep the class from achieving academic success. Sometimes we need to lead with our hearts instead of our heads. The third professor did just that. She treated me first as a human being. Yes, I needed to learn the content of her class, but she first wanted to make sure that my physiological needs were met. Students must be treated with respect and dignity for them to be engaged and invested in their learning. From these experiences, I have learned that the best way to improve the educational experience for our students is to develop and improve relationships. Through this pandemic, we have all learned that the most important things in our lives are relationships. The thing that many of us missed the most during these past few months was that human connection. The major publication issue that must be addressed is the lack of well-developed relationships, the lack of a human connection in the classroom. How can teachers improve their relationships with students? The answer is empathy. Several academic studies suggest that teachers who cultivate empathy for and with their students can better manage students' behavior and academic engagement. Respect and dignity of the dignity of every student. When you develop a rapport with students that respects their individual backgrounds and needs, student success is inevitable. As teachers, we need to connect with students on a real level, showing respect for their culture and affirming their worthiness to receive the best education possible. It is with the development of these relationships that we can help to address other critical issues in the public education system. By working on relationships, we can address student health and wellness. Students will know they have someone in the school they can turn to for help. We can address social inequality. Whether it's socioeconomic status, racism, or sexism, we need to address the biases that may bleed into our teaching and learning. A human connection will help students see the people, the spirit, not merely the skin color, religious belief, or gender. By working on relationships, we can build trust in our schools. We can improve connections to our leaders, administrators, and our community. People will more effectively work together. District offices will create space to engage in dialogue with leaders and teachers, and community members will engage in the teaching and learning process. Now, more than ever, we need everyone to work together to teach our children. By building relationships, we can build a strong educational system where students, teachers, leaders, and community members thrive. The future of our world is in our classrooms, so to fix the brokenness of our world, we need to start with our schools. Strong student-teacher relationships are associated with high academic engagement, attendance, grades, fewer disruptive behaviors and suspensions, and lower dropout rates. And students aren't the only ones who benefit from these strong relationships. Teacher-student relationships are the best predictor of how much joy the teacher experiences in the class. April 9th, 2020 was day 25 of remote learning and teaching during this pandemic. The weatherman was forecasting 18 inches of snow for Kent, My own children were frustrated with IXL math. My students were worried about graduation. Administration just informed us that remote learning would continue for the rest of the school year, and I had just received a phone call from a student's mother who was worried about her son dropping out of school 2 months before graduation. It was a lot to handle. The learner, Dawson, was struggling with his senior project, a project designed for student agency. He picked the topic, he designed the product, he designed the mode of presentation, but he still wasn't making the connection. How was I going to get through to him? His mother gave me a cell phone, and I called him. I told him to meet me on Zoom the next morning. He confided into me that he felt disconnected. He felt like he wouldn't be able to push through without the physical presence of a teacher. He was scared. We came up with a plan to meet one-on-one via Zoom every other day. I walked him through everything he needed to be successful. He practiced presenting on the Zoom platform until he felt confident. Kids have weaknesses just like the rest of us. I need to show Dawson what to do with that weakness, how to grow into it rather than give into it. At one point, he stated, "I can do this. It's not that bad. Why was I so worried?" Thank goodness I didn't drop out. During his senior presentation, I had tears in my eyes as he presented with the confidence and knowledge of the top students. With all that was going on at the time, I just wanted my students to get the work done so we could be over with this trying school year. I wanted it over. I lost sight of what was important. I lost sight of my number one belief, that human connections and relationships are what kids need. What makes good teaching? Empathy, connections, relationships. If we can establish strong relationships with our students, either in the physical classroom or remotely, then we can engage them in their learning. To address the many critical issues that face our schools, our counties, and our state, we need to invest in building those positive relationships. We must never underestimate the empowering effect of human connection. Thank you.